The prison ship moved slowly through the dark space between stars. It was called the Crimson Maw, and it carried the most dangerous criminals in the galaxy. The ship was old and rusted. The lights inside were dim and yellow. The air smelled like metal and fear. Park Do-hyun sat in a small transport cage as two Vexen guards dragged him through the long corridor. The Vexens were tall creatures with green scales and yellow eyes. They walked on two legs like humans, but their faces looked like snakes. They smiled with too many teeth. Do-hyun was not a criminal. He was just a cargo pilot who worked on a small trading ship. 3 weeks ago, Vexen soldiers had stopped his ship and found weapons hidden in the cargo hold. Do-hyun did not put the weapons there. He did not even know about them. But the Vexens did not care about the truth. They needed someone to blame, and a human was an easy target. Humans were new to this part of the galaxy. They had only been traveling among the stars for about 200 years. Most alien species looked at humans like they were small and weak. Humans had no claws, no scales, no natural weapons. They were soft and breakable, easy to ignore, easy to hurt. The guards pushed Do-hyun forward. His hands were tied behind his back with energy cuffs that burned his wrists. He was wearing a gray prison uniform that was too big for his body. His black hair was messy and dirty. He had not slept in 3 days. They walked past many cells. Inside the cells, Do-hyun could see creatures of all kinds. Some were small and covered in fur. Some were tall and made of what looked like living stone. Some had too many eyes. Some had no eyes at all. All of them looked broken, defeated, waiting to die. The guards stopped at the last cell in the corridor. It was bigger than the others. The door was made of thick metal with heavy locks. There was a small window in the door, but the glass was dark. Do-hyun could not see inside. One of the guards laughed. It was an ugly sound. "This is your new home, human," the guard said. "You should feel special. We are giving you a very important roommate." The other guard pressed some buttons on a control panel. The locks clicked open one by one. There were 7 locks in total. Do-hyun felt his stomach drop. What kind of prisoner needed 7 locks? The door opened slowly. It was very heavy. Inside the cell, there was only darkness. The smell hit Do-hyun immediately. It was the smell of blood and something wild. Something dangerous. Like standing next to a sleeping predator. The guards pushed Do-hyun hard, and he fell into the cell. He landed on his knees on the cold metal floor. Behind him, the door slammed shut. The locks clicked back into place. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. "Survive until dawn," one guard called through the small window. "If you do, we will be very surprised." The guards laughed again. Then their footsteps faded away down the corridor. Do-hyun stayed on his knees for a long moment. He was breathing fast. His heart was beating so hard, he could hear it in his ears. Slowly, very slowly, his eyes began to adjust to the darkness. The cell was about 5 meters wide and 5 meters long. The walls were metal. The floor was metal. There was no bed, no toilet, no water. Just empty space and darkness. And in the corner, something was breathing. Do-hyun turned his head toward the sound. At first, he could only see shadows. Then the shadows moved, and he saw it. The creature was huge. It was sitting against the far wall, chained by thick energy shackles around its wrists and ankles. The chains connected to the wall behind it. The creature was at least 3 meters tall, even while sitting. Its body was covered in thick white fur that seemed to glow slightly in the darkness. Its arms were long and powerful, ending in hands with claws that looked like curved knives. Its face was like a mix between a wolf and a lion, with a long snout and pointed ears. And its eyes were gold. bright, burning gold. Those eyes were looking directly at Do-hyun. The creature was a Goroth. Do-hyun had heard stories about the Goroth species. Everyone in the galaxy had heard stories. They were created hundreds of years ago by a forgotten empire that wanted to build the perfect soldiers. The Goroth were designed to be killing machines. They were faster, stronger, and more deadly than almost any other species. They could smell fear. They could see in complete darkness. They could tear through metal with their bare claws. But the empire that created them was destroyed long ago. Now, the Goroth were hunted. They were captured and sold as fighters for illegal gladiator pits. They were feared and hated everywhere they went. Most of them were already dead. The few that remained were considered the most dangerous beings in the known galaxy, and Do-hyun was locked in a cell with one. The Goroth tilted its head slightly. Its golden eyes studied Do-hyun like a cat studying a mouse. "Human," the creature said. Its voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. The sound filled the small cell and made Do-hyun's bones shake. Do-hyun did not answer. He was not sure he could speak. His throat felt like it was closed. The Goroth leaned forward slightly. The chains rattled against the wall. Each chain link was as thick as Do-hyun's arm. "You smell of fear," the Goroth said. "Strong fear. Like all the others." Others. The word echoed in Do-hyun's mind. How many others had been thrown into this cell? How many had died in this darkness? The creature seemed to read his thoughts. Its mouth opened, showing rows of sharp teeth. "They send me playthings," the Goroth continued. "Small creatures. Weak creatures. They scream. They beg. They cry. And then they are silent." Do-hyun's hands were shaking. The energy cuffs around his wrists suddenly felt very small and useless. He looked at the Goroth's claws. Each claw was longer than his fingers. One swipe from those claws could cut him in half. He was going to die here. He knew it. There was no escape. No hope. No rescue coming. But something strange happened inside Do-hyun's mind. Maybe it was because he was too tired. Maybe it was because he had already lost everything. Maybe it was because he had spent his whole life being underestimated by creatures bigger and stronger than him. The fear did not disappear, but something else grew alongside it. Something quiet and stubborn. Something very human. He would not beg. He would not scream. If he was going to die, he would die standing up. Slowly, Do-hyun pushed himself to his feet. His legs were shaking, but he forced them to be still. He looked up at the Goroth. He met those golden eyes directly. "My name is Park Do-hyun," he said. His voice was rough, but it did not break. "What is yours?" The Goroth went very still. For a long moment, nothing happened. The creature just stared at Do-hyun with those burning eyes. Something changed in its expression. Not much. Just a small flicker of something that might have been surprise. "You do not run," the Goroth said slowly. "You do not beg. Would it matter if I did?" The creature considered this. Its claws tapped against the metal floor. No, it admitted. It would not. Do-hyun nodded. He had expected that answer. "Then I will not waste my time," he said. "If you were going to kill me, kill me. But I asked you a question. Do you have a name? Or should I just call you Goroth?" Another long silence. The chains rattled softly as the creature shifted its weight. "Kale," it finally said. "My name is Kale." Do-hyun felt something small and warm bloom in his chest. It was not hope, exactly. It was something smaller than that. Something like the first spark of a fire before it grows. The monster had a name, and it had answered him. Maybe that meant something, or maybe it meant nothing at all. Either way, Do-hyun was still alive. The night was long, and dawn was far away. but he was still alive. He sat down on the cold floor, keeping his back against the wall opposite Kale. He pulled his knees up to his chest and wrapped his arms around them for warmth. "Well, Kale," he said quietly, "it looks like we have a long night ahead of us. I hope you do not mind if I talk. Silence makes me nervous." Kale did not answer, but he also did not attack. And for now, that was enough. The darkness in the cell was complete. Do-hyun could not see his own hand in front of his face, but he knew Kale could see him perfectly. The Gorath's golden eyes never closed. They watched him from across the cell like two small suns floating in the black. Do-hyun had been talking for what felt like hours. At first, his voice had shaken. The words came out broken and scared. But as time passed, something changed. The fear was still there, but it moved to the back of his mind. Talking helped. It gave him something to focus on besides death. Kale had not said anything since telling Do-hyun his name. He just sat there, chained to the wall, watching and listening. Sometimes his ears would move slightly, pointing toward Do-hyun when he said something interesting. Sometimes his claws would tap softly against the floor. But he never spoke. Do-hyun did not mind. He had always been good at talking. His mother used to say he could talk to rocks and make them answer. He missed his mother. He missed a lot of things. "I grew up on a farming colony," Do-hyun said. His voice echoed slightly in the metal cell. It was a small planet called New Bizon. There were only about 10,000 people living there. Mostly humans, some friendly aliens. We grew rice in the red soil. The sunsets were beautiful. Orange and purple, like fire mixed with flowers. Kale's ears twitched. "My father died when I was 7 years old," Do-hyun continued. "Mining accident. The company said it was his fault, but everyone knew the equipment was old and broken. My mother raised me and my sister alone after that. Her name was Kim Yoonji. She was a small woman, but she was the strongest person I ever knew." He paused, remembering. His mother's face floated in his memory. Her warm smile. Her rough hands from working in the fields. The way she would hum old songs while cooking dinner. "She worked 16 hours every day," Do-hyun said softly. "In the fields during the day, cleaning houses at night. She never complained. She always said that hard work makes the soul strong." I did not understand what she meant when I was young. I think I understand now. The chains rattled across the cell. Kale had moved, but only slightly. His golden eyes seemed less cold than before. Or maybe Do-hyun was just imagining it. "What about your family?" Do-hyun asked. Silence. Do-hyun waited. He had learned that silence could be an answer, too. Sometimes it meant no. Sometimes it meant not yet. A full minute passed before Kale spoke. "Gorath do not have families," he said. His voice was quieter than before. Less like grinding rocks, more like distant thunder. "We are made, not born. Grown in tanks. Trained to fight. Trained to kill. We have no mothers. No fathers. No sisters." The words hit Do-hyun like a punch to the stomach. He had known the Gorath were created, but hearing it spoken out loud was different. It was sadder somehow. "That sounds lonely," Do-hyun said. Kale made a sound. It might have been a laugh, but it had no happiness in it. "Gorath do not feel loneliness," he said. "We feel hunger. We feel pain. We feel the need to hunt. But loneliness? That is a weakness for soft creatures." Don thought about this. He pulled his knees tighter against his chest. The cold metal floor was making his legs numb. "I do not think loneliness is a weakness," he said carefully. "I think it is proof that you are alive. Only living things feel lonely. Machines do not get lonely. Rocks do not get lonely. If you can feel lonely, it means you have a heart." even if that heart is buried very deep. Kale was silent for a long time. The golden eyes blinked slowly. "You are a strange human," Kale finally said. "The others who were put in this cell with me, they did not talk like you. They screamed. They cried. They begged for their lives. One tried to attack me. He lasted less than a second. And you killed them all?" "Yes." The word hung in the air between them. Do-hyun felt the fear rise up in his chest again, but he pushed it back down. "Why?" he asked. "Because it is what I am," Kale answered. "I am a killer. It is the only thing I know how to be. The guards throw prisoners in here because they want entertainment. They watch through the cameras and make bets on how long each one will survive. It is a game to them." Do-hyun looked up toward the ceiling. He had not noticed any cameras, but in the darkness, he could not see much of anything. "So we are being watched right now?" "Yes, they are probably confused. Usually the screaming starts within the first few minutes." Do-hyun let out a small, tired laugh. It surprised him. Laughing in a situation like this seemed crazy, but the absurdity of it all was almost funny. He was sitting in the dark with a giant killing machine, having a polite conversation while guards somewhere made bets on his death. "I hope I am ruining their entertainment," Do-hyun said. Kale made that sound again. The almost laugh. "You are very strange," he repeated. But this time, the words sounded almost like a compliment. Time passed slowly in the darkness. Do-hyun had no way to know how many hours had gone by. His body ached. His stomach was empty. His throat was dry. But he kept talking. It was the only thing keeping him sane. He told Kale about his sister Yuna. She was 5 years younger than him. When they were children, she used to follow him everywhere like a small shadow. She had their mother's smile and their father's stubborn nature. The last time Do-hyun saw her, she was training to be a doctor in a medical school on Earth. He told Kale about Earth, the home planet of humans. He had only been there once when he was 20 years old. He remembered standing on a beach and looking at the ocean. It was the biggest thing he had ever seen. Water stretching all the way to the horizon. Waves crashing against the sand. Birds flying through the salty air. "The ocean made me feel small," Do-hyun said. "But in a good way. It made me realize that the universe is so much bigger than me. Bigger than my problems. Bigger than my fears. There is comfort in that, I think. Knowing that you are just a tiny piece of something enormous." Kale listened. His breathing had slowed. The chains had stopped rattling. He was completely still now, like a statue made of bone and fur. "Humans are strange creatures," Kale said slowly. "You are weak. You have no claws, no fangs, no armor. You should have died out long ago. But instead, you spread across the stars. You build ships. You create colonies. You survive. How?" Do-hyun thought about the question. It was a good question. "I do not know if there is one answer," he said. "But I think we survive because we refuse to give up. Humans are stubborn. When something tries to kill us, we fight back. When we fall down, we get back up. When we are alone, we find each other. We make families out of strangers. We make homes out of nothing. We keep going, even when there is no logical reason to keep going." He looked toward Kale's golden eyes. "My mother used to say that hope is the most human thing there is," Do-hyun continued. "Other species might be stronger or faster or smarter. But humans hope. We believe that tomorrow can be better than today. Even when everything says we should stop believing, we keep hoping anyway. Maybe that is our greatest strength. Or maybe it is our greatest weakness. I'm not sure." Kale was quiet for a very long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, softer, almost gentle. "I have killed many creatures," he said. "Hundreds, maybe thousands. I stopped counting long ago. They all looked at me the same way. With fear, with hatred, with disgust. But you look at me differently. You look at me like I am a person. Why? The question was simple, but the answer was complicated. Do-hyun searched for the right words. Because you are a person, he said. You have a name. You have thoughts. You have a past. Yes, you have killed. Yes, you are dangerous. But you are not just a monster. You are Kale, and I think maybe you have been treated like a monster for so long that you forgot you could be anything else. The chains rattled. Do-hyun tensed. For a moment, he thought he had gone too far. He had said too much. Kale was going to attack now. The claws would come. The teeth would bite. And it would all be over. But the attack did not come. Instead, something unexpected happened. Kale lowered his head. His massive shoulders slumped. And from somewhere deep in his chest, a sound came out. It was low and rough and broken. It took Do-hyun a moment to realize what it was. The Gorath was crying, not like a human cries. There were no tears. But the sound was the same. The sound of pain that had been held inside for too long. The sound of something breaking open. Do-hyun did not move. He did not speak. He just sat there in the darkness and let Kale feel whatever he needed to feel. After a while, the sound stopped. Kale raised his head. His golden eyes were brighter than before. No one has ever spoken to me like this, he said. His voice was rough and raw. In my entire life, no one has ever treated me like anything more than a weapon. A tool. A monster. I had forgotten what it felt like to be seen. Do-hyun nodded slowly. I see you, Kale, he said. And I am not afraid anymore. It was mostly true. The fear was still there, somewhere in the back of his mind. But it was smaller now, quieter, covered by something else. Something that felt almost like understanding. The night was still long. Dawn was still far away. But something had changed in that dark cell. A connection had been made. A bridge had been built, and neither of them would ever be the same again. Do-hyun did not know how much time had passed. In the darkness, minutes felt like hours, and hours felt like days. His body was tired. His eyes hurt from trying to see in the black. But he forced himself to stay awake. Sleep felt too dangerous. Even though Kale had not attacked him, some part of Do-hyun's brain would not let him rest. He was in the middle of telling a story about his first job as a cargo pilot when he noticed something. Kale's breathing had changed. Earlier in the night, the Gorath's breath had been slow and steady, like a sleeping predator. But now it was different, heavier, rougher. There was a wet sound in it that had not been there before. Do-hyun stopped talking. Kale? He said into the darkness. Are you okay? No answer. Just that rough, wet breathing. Do-hyun's eyes had adjusted to the darkness as much as they could. He could see the outline of Kale's massive body against the far wall. The Gorath was still sitting in the same position, but something was wrong. His shoulders were hunched forward. His head was hanging low. Kale, Do-hyun said again, more firmly this time. Talk to me. It is nothing. Kale's voice came back. But the words were strained, tight, like he was speaking through pain. Do-hyun stood up slowly. His legs were stiff from sitting on the cold floor for so long. He took a careful step toward Kale, then another, then another. Stop, Kale growled. Do not come closer. Why not? Because I might hurt you. When I am in pain, I cannot always control myself. The instincts take over. The need to fight. The need to kill. Just stay back. But Do-hyun did not stop. He kept walking forward, one small step at a time. His heart was beating fast again, but he pushed through the fear. "You will not hurt me," Do-Yoon said quietly. "You do not know that." "Yes, I do." He was close now, close enough to touch. In the dim light, he could finally see what was wrong. There was a wound on Kale's side. A big one. The white fur was dark with blood. The wound was deep and ugly, and it was still bleeding. Around the edges of the wound, the flesh was burned and black, like something hot had cut into him. "What happened?" Do-Hyun asked. He knelt down beside Kale, looking at the injury with worried eyes. Kale did not answer at first. His golden eyes were half closed. His breathing was getting worse. "The guards," he finally said. "They have toys, shock lances, acid prods, burning blades. They like to test how much a Gorath can suffer. They say we are hard to kill. They want to find our limits." Anger flashed through Do-Hyun's chest, hot and sudden. He had seen cruelty before. Life in the outer colonies was hard, and people could be terrible to each other. But this was something different. This was torture, pure and simple. "How long ago did this happen?" Do-Hyun asked. "Yesterday, or the day before. Time is strange in this cell. And they just left you here? Bleeding? Without any treatment?" Kale made that sound again. The laugh with no happiness. "I am a monster, remember? Monsters do not need doctors. Monsters do not need care. We just need to keep being monsters until we finally die." Do-Hyun felt his jaw tighten. He looked around the cell, trying to find anything that could help. There was nothing. No medical supplies. No water. No cloth. Nothing but metal walls and darkness. Then he looked down at his own body. He was still wearing the gray prison uniform. It was dirty and thin, but it was cloth. It would work. Without hesitation, Do-Hyun grabbed the bottom of his shirt and pulled. The fabric was cheap and weak. It tore easily. He ripped off a long strip of cloth and folded it in his hands. "What are you doing?" Kale asked. His golden eyes opened wider. "I am going to try to help you," Do-Hyun said. "I am not a doctor. I do not have medicine or tools. But I can at least try to stop the bleeding. Why?" The question was simple, but it carried so much weight. Do-Hyun could hear the confusion in Kale's voice. The disbelief. This was a creature who had never been helped. Never been cared for. Never been treated with kindness. "Because it is the right thing to do," Do-Hyun said. He moved closer to the wound. Up close, it looked even worse. The blood was dark purple, almost black. The burned edges of the flesh smelled like copper and fire. It was infected. He could tell that much. "This might hurt," Do-Hyun warned. "Pain means nothing to me." "I know. But I wanted to warn you anyway." Slowly, carefully, Do-Hyun pressed the cloth against the wound. He applied pressure, trying to stop the bleeding. Kale's whole body tensed. His claws dug into the metal floor, leaving deep scratches. A low growl rumbled in his chest. But he did not attack. He did not push Do-Hyun away. "Keep breathing," Do-Hyun said softly. "Slow and steady. Focus on my voice." He kept talking as he worked. He talked about small things. Unimportant things. The taste of his mother's cooking. The sound of rain on a metal roof. The way sunlight looked when it came through clouds. Anything to keep Kale's mind away from the pain. Minutes passed. The cloth became soaked with blood. Do-Hyun tore off another strip from his shirt and replaced the first one. Then another, and another. By the time he was done, his uniform was more holes than fabric. But the bleeding had slowed. "You are strange," Kale said. His voice was weaker now, tired. "You keep saying that. Because it is true. I could kill you right now. One swipe of my claws. One bite from my teeth. You would be dead before you even felt the pain. Yet you sit here, touching my blood, trying to save my life. Why? What do you gain from this? Do-hyun sat back on his heels. He looked up at Kale's face. The golden eyes were watching him with something that looked almost like wonder. I do not need to gain anything, Do-hyun said. Not everything has to be about gain. Sometimes you help someone just because they need help. Because they are hurting. Because you have the ability to make things a little bit better. That is what humans do. We help each other. It is how we survive. But I am not human. I am Gorth. I am your enemy. No, Do-hyun said firmly. You are not my enemy. The Vexen guards who threw me in here are my enemies. The people who accuse me of crimes I did not commit are my enemies. You are just someone who has been hurt. Someone who has been used. Someone who deserves better than this. Kale stared at him for a long moment. You really believe that? He asked. Yes, even after everything I have done? All the creatures I have killed? All the blood on my claws? Do-hyun thought about this. It was a fair question. Kale had killed. He had said so himself. Hundreds, maybe thousands. That was not something Do-hyun could ignore. I believe that you did terrible things, Do-hyun said slowly. I believe that you hurt people. But I also believe that you were made to do those things. You were created to be a weapon. You were trained to kill. You were never given a choice. The blood on your claws is not just yours. It belongs to the people who made you. The people who used you. The people who never gave you a chance to be anything else. He leaned forward slightly. But right now, in this moment, you have a choice. You can kill me. Nothing is stopping you. But if you choose not to, if you choose to be something other than what they made you, then maybe you can start again. Maybe you can become someone new. Kale was silent. His breathing was steadier now. The bleeding had mostly stopped. But his eyes were full of something Do-hyun had never seen in them before. It took him a moment to recognize what it was. Hope. Small. Fragile. Almost invisible. But there. I do not know how to be anything else, Kale said quietly. I have been a weapon my whole life. A tool. A thing. I do not know how to be a person. Then learn, Do-hyun said. It is not too late. I can help you. If you let me. Why would you help me? Do-hyun smiled. It was a tired smile, but it was real. Because that is what friends do. The word hung in the air between them. Friend. Such a small word. Such a simple word. But for Kale, it might as well have been a word from another language. He had never had a friend before. He did not even know what the word really meant. Friend, he repeated slowly, like he was tasting the word, trying to understand it. Yes, Do-hyun said. Friend. More time passed. Do-hyun stayed close to Kale, checking the wound every now and then to make sure the bleeding had not started again. They talked more. Or rather, Do-hyun talked and Kale listened. Sometimes Kale would ask questions. Small questions. Where did humans come from? What was Earth like? What did food taste like? Questions that a child might ask. And maybe that was what Kale was, in a way. A child. He had the body of a killer and the mind of a warrior. But inside, there was something young and unformed. Something that had never been allowed to grow. At some point, Do-hyun realized he was leaning against Kale's side. The Gorath's fur was surprisingly warm and soft. It was like leaning against a giant heated blanket. Do-hyun's eyes started to close. You are tired, Kale said. I have not slept in 3 days. Then sleep. Do-hyun opened his eyes. What? Sleep, Kale repeated. I will watch over you. Nothing will hurt you while I am here. It was a strange thing to hear from a creature who had just admitted to killing hundreds of beings. But somehow, Do-hyun believed him. He did not know why. Maybe he was too tired to think clearly. Maybe his brain had finally given up on fear. Or maybe he had learned something tonight about judging people by their past instead of their present. "Okay," Do-hyun said softly. "Thank you, Kale." "Thank you, Do-hyun," Kale replied, "for seeing me." Do-hyun closed his eyes. The darkness wrapped around him like a blanket. And for the first time in 3 days, he slept. When he woke up, he was still leaning against Kale. Do-hyun woke up slowly. His body ached. His neck was stiff. His mouth was dry. But he was alive. That was something. He opened his eyes and found himself still leaning against Kale's side. The Gorath had not moved all night. His massive body was like a warm wall of muscle and fur. His golden eyes were still open, still watching the door of the cell. "You are awake," Kale said. His voice was quiet, gentle, almost. "How long was I asleep?" "Several hours. I am not certain." Time moved strangely here. Do-hyun sat up slowly. His muscles screamed in protest. He was hungry. So hungry. And thirsty. His lips were cracked and dry. But there was no food in the cell. No water. They would have to wait. He looked at Kale's wound. It had stopped bleeding completely now, but it still looked bad. The flesh around the injury was red and swollen. Infection was setting in. Without proper medicine, it would only get worse. "How do you feel?" Do-hyun asked. "I have felt worse. That is not what I asked." Kale paused. It seemed like a strange concept to him. Someone asking how he felt. Caring about his answer. "Weak," he admitted. "The wound takes energy from my body. I am not at full strength." Do-hyun nodded. He looked around the cell, thinking. If the guards came now, Kale might not be able to fight them. That was bad. Very bad. When do they usually come? Do-hyun asked. "Dawn. They come to collect the body, or to see if there is still entertainment left." "And what happens when they find both of us alive?" Kale's claws tapped against the floor. "They will be surprised," he said. "Angry, probably. The guards enjoy their games. They do not like when things do not go as expected. Will they try to kill me themselves? Possibly. Or they might leave you here for another night. See if I finish the job." Do-hyun felt a cold knot form in his stomach. He had survived the night, but that did not mean he was safe. The guards could do whatever they wanted. There was no one to stop them. No one who cared. But something had changed since last night. Do-hyun was not alone anymore. He had Kale, and Kale had him. "Kale," Do-hyun said carefully, "I need to ask you something." "Ask? When the guards come, what will you do?" The Gorath was silent for a moment. His golden eyes flickered with something dark. "I have been thinking about this," Kale said slowly. "All night, while you slept, I have been thinking. About what you said. About choices. About becoming something new." He turned his head to look at Do-hyun directly. "For my entire life, I have done what others wanted me to do. I killed because they told me to kill. I fought because they put me in the ring. I was their weapon, their tool, their monster. I never questioned it. I never thought I had a choice." His claws scraped against the metal floor. "But you showed me something different. You treated me like a person. You cared for my wound. You called me friend. And now I understand what you meant. I do have a choice. I always had a choice. I just never knew it." Do-hyun felt his heart beat faster. "And what choice do you make now?" he asked. Kale's golden eyes burned with a fire that Do-hyun had not seen before. Not the fire of violence. Something else. Something stronger. "I choose you," Kale said. I choose to protect you. The guards want me to be a monster? Fine, I will be a monster. But I will be your monster. Anyone who tries to hurt you will answer to me. The words hung in the air between them, heavy, powerful, like a vow, like a promise carved in stone. Kale, Do-yoon started. I have nothing else, Kale continued. No home, no family, no purpose. But you gave me something tonight. You gave me hope. You gave me a reason to be more than what they made me. So I will protect that. I will protect you. From this moment forward, you are mine to guard. My human, my friend. Do-hyun did not know what to say. No one had ever said anything like this to him before. He was just a cargo pilot from a small farming colony. He was nobody special. But to Kale, he was everything. I do not know if we can escape, Do-hyun said quietly. This ship is full of guards, full of prisoners. I do not even know where we are. It does not matter, Kale said. We will find a way. Or we will die trying. Either way, I will not let you face it alone. Before Do-hyun could respond, a sound came from outside the cell. Footsteps, heavy and metallic. The guards were coming. Do-hyun's body went cold. This was it. Dawn had arrived. Kale shifted his weight. He moved his body so that he was between Do-hyun and the door. His muscles tensed. His claws extended. Despite his wound, despite his weakness, he looked ready to fight. Stay behind me, Kale growled. The locks on the door began to click open. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The door swung open with a loud groan. Light flooded into the cell. Do-hyun had to cover his eyes. After so many hours in darkness, even the dim corridor lights were painfully bright. 3 Vexen guards stood in the doorway. They were carrying shock lances that crackled with blue energy. The lead guard was the same one who had thrown Do-hyun into the cell the night before. His scales were dark green, almost black, and he had a scar running down the left side of his face. Well, 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 the lead guard said. His voice was thick with amusement. Look at this. The human is still alive. I owe Thark 20 credits. The other guards laughed. Ugly, hissing sounds. What is this? The guard continued, stepping into the cell. Is the mighty Gareth going soft? Losing his touch? Kale did not respond. He just watched, waiting. The guard looked at Do-hyun, then at Kale, then back at Do-hyun. His yellow eyes narrowed. Something happened here, he said. You two talked, did you not? Made friends? How sweet. How pathetic. He raised his shock lance. But friendship does not matter on this ship. You are both prisoners. You are both property. And property does what it is told. He pointed the lance at Do-hyun. I think I will take the human myself. He seems interesting. Maybe he can survive a few rounds in the pit. What do you think, boys? Should we see what a human looks like when it bleeds? The other guards laughed again. Kale moved. It happened so fast that Do-hyun barely saw it. One moment, Kale was sitting against the wall. The next, he was standing. The chains that had held him for so long stretched to their limit. And then, with a sound like thunder, they broke. The metal links shattered like they were made of glass. The energy shackles exploded in a shower of sparks. Kale lunged forward, his massive body filling the cell like a wave of white fury. The lead guard did not even have time to scream. Kale's claw caught him across the chest and threw him into the corridor wall. The other 2 guards tried to raise their shock lances, but they were too slow. Kale was among them before they could fire. The fight lasted exactly 11 seconds. Do-hyun counted. When it was over, all 3 guards were on the floor. They were still alive. Do-hyun could see their chests rising and falling. But they were not getting up anytime soon. Kale stood in the middle of the carnage, breathing hard. His wound had opened again. Fresh blood was dripping down his side. But his golden eyes were clear and sharp. He turned to look at Do-yoon. "Are you hurt?" Kale asked. Do-yoon shook his head. He could not find words. "Good." Kale extended his massive hand toward Do-yoon. The claws were covered in purple blood, but the gesture was gentle. "We leave. Now." Do-yoon looked at the hand. Such a simple thing. A hand reaching out to help. A hand offering protection. A hand that could kill but chose to save instead. He took it. Kale pulled him to his feet effortlessly. The Garth's grip was warm and strong. "Stay close to me," Kale said. "I do not know the layout of this ship, but I can follow the smells. Find the escape pods. Find a way out." "You are injured," Do-yoon said. "You need rest. I will rest when you are safe." "Not before." There was no point in arguing. Do-yoon could see the determination in Kale's eyes. The fire of purpose. This was not the same creature who had sat in the darkness, broken and alone. This was someone new. Someone who had found something worth fighting for. They stepped over the unconscious guards and moved into the corridor. The prison ship was a maze of metal hallways and locked doors. Red emergency lights lined the walls, casting everything in a bloody glow. Alarms would start soon. Do-yoon knew that. Once the guards were discovered, the whole ship would be looking for them. But for now, the corridor was empty. For now, they had a chance. Kale led the way, his massive body moving with surprising silence. His ears turned constantly, listening for danger. His nose tested the air. "This way," he said, turning down a side passage. "I smell recycled air. There is a hangar or pod bay nearby." Do-yoon followed close behind. His heart was pounding. His hands were shaking. But he was not afraid. Not anymore. He had walked into a cage with a killer dot, and now he was walking out with a friend. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The alarm started 5 minutes after they left the cell. Red lights flashed across the corridors. A loud siren filled the air with its terrible noise. Somewhere behind them, Do-yoon could hear shouting. The guards had been found. Kale did not slow down. He moved through the corridors like a ghost, his massive body somehow avoiding the security cameras and patrols. Every few steps, he would stop, smell the air, and change direction. Do-yoon followed without question. He did not know where they were going, but he trusted Kale. It was strange, really. 24 hours ago, he had been thrown into a cell to die. Now he was running through a prison ship with a Gorath as his protector. Life was strange sometimes. They turned another corner and found themselves facing a dead end. A large metal door blocked their path. Above the door, a sign read, "Emergency Pod Bay 7. "This is it," Kale said. "I can smell the fuel. There are ships on the other side." But there was a problem. The door was locked with a digital keypad. It needed a code that neither of them knew. Do-yoon looked at the keypad. It was a standard Vexen design. 4 digits. Probably millions of possible combinations. They did not have time to guess. "Can you break it down?" Do-yoon asked. Kale examined the door. He pressed his claws against the metal, testing its strength. "Maybe," he said, "but it will take time. And noise. The guards will find us." Behind them, the sounds of running footsteps were getting closer. They had maybe 2 minutes before the whole ship was on top of them. Do-yoon's mind raced. There had to be another way. He looked around the corridor, searching for anything useful. His eyes landed on a small panel on the wall. It was an access point for the ship's electrical system. Most cargo ships had similar designs. If he could get inside, Maybe he could bypass the door's lock. "Give me 30 seconds, Do-hyun said. "What?" "Just trust me." He ran to the panel and pulled it open. Inside was a mess of wires and circuits. Do-hyun had seen systems like this 100 times. As a cargo pilot, he had often needed to fix broken equipment with limited tools and no instructions. It was a skill born from necessity. He found the wires connected to the door's lock. Blue for power, green for signal, red for emergency override. If he could cross the right connections, his fingers moved quickly. He pulled out 2 wires, stripped the ends with his teeth, and twisted them together. The keypad sparked. The door let out a soft beep, and then it opened. "I am starting to understand why humans survive," Kale said with something like admiration in his voice. "Stubborn and clever," Do-hyun replied with a weak smile. "Our 2 greatest tools." They rushed through the door and into the pod bay. The room was large and circular. 6 escape pods lined the walls like sleeping metal eggs. Most of them were dark and inactive. The one near the far end still had power. Its lights were glowing green. "That one," Do-hyun said, pointing. "Hurry." They ran across the bay. Behind them, the door they had just opened slammed against the wall. Guards poured through, their shock lances raised and ready. "Stop," one of them shouted. "By order of the Vexen Empire, stop now or we will fire." Kale spun around. He put his body between Do-hyun and the guards. Even wounded, even exhausted, he looked terrifying. A mountain of white fur and golden eyes and deadly claws. "Run," Kale said to Do-hyun. "Get to the pod. Start the launch sequence. I am not leaving you. You are not leaving me. You are saving us both. I will hold them. You fly. That is what you do, is it not? You are a pilot." Do-hyun hesitated. Every part of him wanted to stay and fight. But Kale was right. Do-hyun was not a warrior. He could not fight Vexen guards with his bare hands. What he could do was fly. "Do not die," Do-hyun said. "I will try." Do-hyun turned and ran toward the escape pod. Behind him, he heard the battle begin. The crack of shock lances, the roar of Kale's fury, the screams of guards who had made the mistake of underestimating a Gorath with something to protect. Do-hyun reached the pod and threw himself inside. The interior was small but functional. A pilot's chair, a simple control panel, a window looking out into space. His hands moved across the controls automatically. Power on. Life support activated. Navigation system booting. Launch sequence initializing. Outside the pod, the sounds of fighting continued. Do-hyun forced himself not to look. He had to focus. He had to trust Kale. The pod's computer spoke in a flat, mechanical voice. "Launch sequence requires 30 seconds. Please remain seated." 30 seconds. It felt like an eternity. Do-hyun counted in his head. 1, 2, 4. The sounds of fighting slowed down. Fewer screams now. Fewer shock lances firing. 10, 11, 12. Silence. Do-hyun's heart stopped. Had Kale fallen? Was he hurt? Dead? Then the pod door opened, and a massive white figure threw itself inside. Kale was covered in cuts and burns. Purple Vexen blood mixed with his own dark blood. One of his eyes was swollen shut. His breathing was ragged and wet. But he was alive. "Told you," Kale gasped, collapsing into the passenger area behind Do-hyun's chair. "I would try." "Launch sequence complete," the computer announced. "Launching now." The pod shook as the launch mechanism activated. Do-hyun felt the force push him back into his seat. Through the window, he watched the prison ship fall away. The stars rushed in to take its place. They were free. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Do-hyun just sat there, watching the stars, feeling the weight of everything that had happened slowly settling into his bones. They had escaped. Against all odds. Against all logic. They had made it. Finally, Kale's voice came from behind him. "Where do we go now?" Do-hyun thought about the question. Where did they go? He was a fugitive now, accused of crimes he did not commit, hunted by the Vexen Empire. He could not go back to his old life. That life was gone forever. But there were other options. The galaxy was big, full of places where people did not ask questions, full of opportunities for those brave enough to take them. And there was one thing he needed to do. One person he needed to find. "My sister," Do-hyun said. "She is on Earth, training to be a doctor. I need to find her. Make sure she is safe. Let her know I am alive. Then we go to Earth," Kale said simply. "It is far. On the other side of the galaxy. It will take months to get there. I have nothing but time. And I made a promise. Where you go, I go." Do-hyun turned in his chair to look at Kale. The Gorath was a mess, bleeding, broken, but his golden eyes were bright with determination, with loyalty, with something that looked almost like joy. "Thank you," Do-hyun said. The words felt too small for what he meant, but they were all he had. "No," Kale said. "Thank you. For everything." They sat in comfortable silence as the pod drifted through the stars. The prison ship was just a dot now, getting smaller by the second. Behind them was pain and darkness and fear. Ahead of them was everything else. Do-hyun set a course for the nearest safe port. They would need supplies, fuel, medicine for Kale's wounds. And then they would find a ship. A real ship. Something fast and reliable. "I have an idea," Do-hyun said slowly. "Tell me." "We are both fugitives now. Both outsiders. Both people who have been treated badly by the galaxy." He paused, thinking through the words. What if we use that? What if we help others like us? People who have been wrongly accused. People who have been forgotten. We could find them. Rescue them. Give them a second chance. Kale considered this. His ears twitched thoughtfully. "You want to be heroes," he said. "I want to be useful. I want what happened to me to mean something. And I want the galaxy to know that humans are not weak. That kindness is not weakness. That even the smallest person can make a difference." Kale was quiet for a long moment. Then he made a sound that Do-hyun had never heard before. It was low and rumbling, almost like purring. It took a moment for Do-hyun to realize what it was. Laughter. Real laughter. "I think I'm going to enjoy this," Kale said. "This new life. This adventure. Even with a weak little human telling you what to do. Especially with a weak little human telling me what to do." Kale's voice softened. "You are the strongest person I have ever met, Park Do-hyun. Not in your body. In your heart. And I am honored to walk beside you." Do-hyun felt tears sting his eyes. He blinked them away quickly. "Then let us go," he said. "Let us show the galaxy what we can do." The escape pod turned toward the distant stars, carrying a human who had refused to be afraid and a monster who had chosen to be something more. Behind them, dawn was breaking across the prison ship. But for Do-hyun and Kale, the real dawn was just beginning. In the years that followed, stories would spread across the 14 systems. Stories of an unlikely pair who had become legends. A human pilot who could talk his way out of any situation and a Gorath warrior who protected him with his life. They would become smugglers, rebels, heroes. The Vexen Empire would learn to fear the name Park Do-hyun. Not because he was strong, not because he was dangerous, but because he had done the impossible. He had walked into a cage with a killer, and walked out with a brother. And that the galaxy would learn was the most dangerous thing about humans. Not their strength, not their technology, their stubborn, impossible, beautiful ability to find family in the most unlikely places. And once a human chose you as family, they would never let you go.